This is a question that I've been really dreading talking about, but again, I think that we're in a really great place. I feel very supported and loved and connected and feel that I can have this conversation with you now more so than ever in the past. So I think a lot of couples go through this, and this is why I want to talk about it. I think when you watch people battling infertility on social media, it's a lot of positive, right? Like you're doing your shots together and you're going to your appointments together and you're this team. But I think behind closed doors, there's a lot of stress. And then I think when you have a miscarriage, in the beginning, I felt a lot of support and a lot of love and all that. But then, I've said it before, I think 2019 was hands down the worst year of my life. Like it was awful. Like things were horrible between us. How did it go from, I guess for me, it felt like two really big extremes. Like I felt really hurt from having a miscarriage, but being very loved and protected by you, to feeling like I had completely lost you in like a really short time span. And that was really hard because it was like, I felt like I lost a child and then I lost my husband all at once. So like, where was that shift and like what caused it? And I know it's hard to talk about, but again, I think that I feel secure in us, but it still does leave a mark because it was so subtle and so abrupt and so hurtful.
I don't know. To me, I have sort of forgotten about that time period. And so like some of the actions or reactions to what you're describing, I've blocked out, I guess. I don't know. I wouldn't say that I looked at you any differently in the sense of you can't handle carrying a baby like you did. Like with Brexton, everything was fine. Everything was easy. I think what my frustrations maybe were in you was just that you put so much pressure on yourself always, and you've described it, that you've done something wrong and this and that. And I was always kind of just like, it's not you. Like, it's just fate. It's just the sense of how the world works, how God works weird, mysterious ways in our lives, right? And so I don't know that you ever just kind of like let go into that. And so my biggest frustration was just, as a male, we're always guys. If there's a problem, we're going to fix it, right? We want to be the fixers. And so like I was trying to fix, and like there was like, it was like knocking on a door that there was nobody behind. And so it was frustrating to me. So I guess eventually I wasn't able to fix that situation. So I stopped knocking on that door. And so maybe that was probably some of the like disconnect and the varying ways in which we had in our time and our partnership and in our marriage and things like that.
Yeah, I definitely hear you when you say, even to today, that like you've blocked some of that out, where I think it will forever stay with me, and not saying that in a negative way, but also saying that, we've learned things and we've overcome. But I want to be really honest with people listening, because I think nobody posts the bad stuff, right? And like, that doesn't make sense to post that like we're fighting every day, or like,
Instagram versus reality.
Right. But I guess my question is, I understand the feeling frustrated that I was still grieving and having a hard time moving past it. But do you look at your actions then of like having one foot out the door? Like, how do you feel about that now? Like after we've gone through, and I mean, I've been open about it, we've gone through couples therapy, like you put in the work, I put in the work. It was necessary. I think that it helps us now when we have disagreements about things to not spiral as bad and as long. And like, I've accepted that we have different healing, grieving, coping styles, and that's okay, but we have to coexist together with them and like nurture each other's styles.
What was our saying after the couples therapy
after
there for
George?
a while? Yeah, what would George do?
What would George do? Yeah. I don't know. But like, what would you say to men, I guess? So it was the hardest thing for me, losing a baby and then having you almost gone. Like,
I don't know. I mean, maybe I was misreading the situation of giving you your space for a minute, but then it sort of morphed into something else of just like,
it spiraled.
yeah, right. I don't know. I mean, the therapy thing must have just needed to come sooner. Like, I think we were both kind of like, no, we don't need that. We can figure this out. And then finally there was sort of that line where it was like, I think you did. You were like, I'm going. You're either coming with me or you're not. And so I was like, well, I guess we're going.
How do you think, I'm sure that there's going to be couples out there listening, and we can be honest about it. It was a bad time. Like, there was a really real potential there that I thought you were leaving for good. And that's hard. And sometimes, still brings up emotions. But, like, I guess what would you say to the men out there that, or even couples out there that are in that spiral? Because it's so hard to get out of that spiral. Do you remember that? Like, it just felt like we were constantly talking about problems and fighting, and it just was so hard to keep going. But we did. Like, we did keep going. And, for that and many other reasons, I love you, and I think it made us stronger. But what do you think for couples out there, especially the men, that you would say?
I think you've got to trust in your instinct on the situation, your partner, and all that sort of stuff, and knowing that you are a very smart and bright and confident woman. There are times where
you can say it.
A 35-year-old or a 40-year-old woman going out in a bikini, and you're like, I don't look good in this. And I'm like, would you just shut up? Like, yes, you're fine. Like, not that sort of confidence. There's other sort of confidences. But anyways, I think that, and then being able to openly discuss those things, not amongst yourselves, because trust me, there was a lot of times where you would bring up a topic and you would want to talk. You were very passionate about talking about something, and it wasn't something horrible, but it was just whatever it was. And it could have been, this pencil is 8 inches long, and I'm like, no, honey, the pencil's 10. Okay, it's brand new. And you were like, no, it is this. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. I'm going to write that down. Let's go see George. Let's see what George thinks.
I completely agree. I think
that was the best sense of like, okay, you have an issue, and it's like, nope, you stop talking. I'm going to stop talking. We're going to write it down, and we're going to hammer this out with a third party so we can come to the consensus of who's right versus who's wrong.
No, I 1,000% agree. I think, shout out to our therapist, George. He moved to Phoenix, and we're very sad. George helped us get through that. We could not do it on our own, period. It was ugly. It was messy. There was a lot of hurtful words and actions. You know what I mean? Like,
there was truths.
Well, some was, but some was just, how do you say it?
Hurtful, like.
No, some were truths, yes.
Truth hurts.
But some were just like picking a scab, right? Like, just to fester it. But
you like to do that.
No.
Yo, yeah, you like to bring up all of the past stuff.
No, I still do.
Over and over.
But I agree.
Moving on.
And that's something that we learned in therapy, and that we do not see conflict the same. Like, you are, close the book, put it on a shelf, and I'm like, wait, no, but I might need to go back to that chapter if something reminds me of it in the future so that we can learn from it. Like, we have very different styles, and I think George showed us that, like, that's okay that you have one style, and you don't have to be my style, and I don't have to be your style, but we have to respect each other's styles and learn how to communicate and grow together, because it was ugly there for a while. Mm-hmm. And I think what was really hard, and I'd like to hear your side too, was being in the NASCAR rumor mill during it. Like, that was hell. I will say, like, to this day, 4th of July 2019 was just hell. You went to the track, we didn't. I had Brexton. had to like try to keep it together and be a good mom and pretend everything was fine, dying on the inside, getting all these like texts and rumors and all this stuff. And it was awful. Like, how did you feel being in the rumor mill, or because did people not text you stuff? Because sometimes I feel like guys don't get that as much as girls.
I didn't get many personal texts, but I did see all of probably not all, but much of the dirty social that was out there and stuff like that. Yeah, and it because we were having issues and Samantha wasn't around, and it was divorce court basically or whatever, and so that was rough, but it was kind of all stemmed from the miscarriage, and then the disagreements and the personal life of just not really seeing eye to eye on some things, but then being able to go through all of that, and in the end, being able to shut all that up once the news finally did come out, that we had survived, I guess, the turmoil.
Yeah.
That look at us now.
No, I mean, again, I think you and I say this, that God does everything for a reason. And did it suck? Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't really clear up until November, right?
Past that even. I mean, it was ugly. And people just made it uglier.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And
things spiral.
But again, like, God has us go through everything for a reason. And do I ever want to go through that again? No. But I do feel like we're stronger from it. I do think that since going through that, maybe things that could have flared up and been a big argument, like, we don't have that. You know what I mean? And like, so all that to say, it was an ugly, terrible time that I never want to relive. But yay, look at us now.
Look at us now.
Look at us now.
Kudos to you.